Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Red and Blacks TV. There's been a lot going on in this transfer market, so I figured I'd wait a little bit to get all the information together and just have one episode about 2 weeks later to catch everyone up with everything. Today, we're going to talk about a couple of new signings that came in, some exciting stuff, a couple of potential sales still on the way that haven't happened. We're still chasing a striker. And we also had a few friendlies, so got to see the team a little bit and how they're performing now in this new centered team. So first things first, every time we have a signing this season, every player has been mentioning that they joined because of Pioli's tactics. After speaking with Pioli, at a certain point, it's almost starting to feel like propaganda for me. I'm not really sure how much I believe that Pioli's calling every one of these players and talking to them and convincing them to join the team. It almost feels like the upper management is making this rhetoric to give Pioli more of that power because of the Maldini situation a couple months back, which at the end of the day, I don't blame them. I guess we do want the fans and everyone to be revolved around Pioli now because apparently he's chosen all these players that he wants, and we're building the team around the coach and his tactics. So a lot's going to be riding on him, and if the team does not do good this season, you can expect that they will let go of Pioli and be signing a new manager. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Obviously, I'd want a good season regardless whether I believe in Pioli tactics or not. Let's just see how it goes. But I do think that they're putting all of the pressure on Pioli and making it seem like he's handpicking these players so that if something happens in the future, they're going to be obviously pointing the blame at him. So let's see how he handles this new pressure and how the team performs as well. So let's get on with it with the upcoming transfer news. We signed two players. Musa finally signed. The United States international finally signed with us. Something's going on with my hair over here. But anyway, the United States international finally signed with us. That's our second American of the transfer market. If we still go for Balogun, we'll see. Maybe he'll be our third American of the season. I don't know. But right now, Musa, great and exciting signing. Young player, very combative, and a nice box-to-box midfielder. So let's see how he meshes with the team. But it's looking like we do have now depth in the midfield. And we could potentially start with Reinders, Musa, and RLC in our three midfield in our new 4-3-3 system. But Musa is a terrific signing, especially because he's very young and has a lot of growth left in him. On top of that, we finally signed Samuel Chukwueze. Now, I told you guys I would learn how to pronounce his name, and that's what it is. Samuel Chukwueze is a very exciting right winger. Even Leao made some comments that he's excited to take the league by storm with Chukwueze. And according to his first interview for Milan, he's also excited to come to AC Milan, ready to take on the league and wants to win trophies. Very exciting signing for us. I do believe that our attack is going to be more dynamic now with a lot of attacking talent now on all wings. If we play 4-2-3-1, you're going to have three amazing technical players behind Giroud in Pulisic, Chukwueze, and Leao on the left. It is very exciting. We do have the talent now to actually have a non-stagnant attack because sometimes last season our attack just wasn't creating enough. Another player that is now on the way out actually is Charles De Ketelaere. So basically CDK is on his way to Atalanta. In the latest news, it seems that he wants a higher salary and his entourage, his agent, they want a bigger commission. So that's the only thing that is holding him up from going to Atalanta in a loan with option to buy. It's going to be a paid loan, and they're going to have the option to buy him. It's looking like a $3 million paid loan, maybe with $23 million option to buy. So we'll see how it goes. But I think that's great news. We can get some money for him now, and potentially Atalanta can sign him at the end of the season. It would be nice if it was an obligation, so we have the money basically in our account, and we have the money to put it towards another transfer. Because currently, with the signings that we got, it does not seem that CDK fits in anywhere. During some of the friendlies this season, he was playing in a midfield three, and they were trying to use him in that position. But again, he wasn't looking as comfortable. He's not looking like he's free to play his type of game in AC Milan whatsoever. And at this point, with the new signings coming in, I think it's too much of a risk to even hold him on the team and keep him on the bench because his value might just fall down. The other player on his way out right now is Rade Krunic. Krunic obviously has been a cult hero with AC Milan, one of the most underrated players. He doesn't do anything spectacular, but he does play multiple positions and fits the tactics well, especially in our Scudetto season and last year. He was doing very good for us in the center defensive midfield position, and he looked like he was going to start in a midfield 3 in the 4-3-3. But everyone knows that we could improve in that position. Krunic is not some world star player, and he is now asking for more money in his salary because Fenerbahce from Turkey has offered him a lot more money and has made a couple of offers now to AC Milan to sign him. Granted, a lot of times when we get offers from Turkish teams, they do end up being very low, such as when Rebic just recently left. I think we sold him for a few $100,000, maybe $500,000, or I'm not even sure, but it's peanuts compared to what we need. So let's see what happens with Krunic. And if Krunic is on his way out, the number one player looking to replace him now is Dominguez from Bologna. At least that's what the news is saying, that Dominguez might be the player to replace Krunic. There is other players that we're looking into, such as Fofana from Monaco. Let's see how we can replace him. Obviously, in my opinion, if we sell Krunic and we get a good amount for him, there is a lot of players that we can sign that would be better than him. I don't think it's a huge loss, especially if he's asking for a lot more money. It's not really worth it to pay him more when we can just sign someone that has the potential to be a lot better. Because at this moment, I believe Krunic is almost at his max potential. I don't see him becoming that much better than he is now. We still have Origi on the team, but he hasn't really played any of the friendlies, and he looks to be on his way out to West Ham. West Ham just sold Scamacca to Atalanta. So it seems that they are in need of a striker, and they can get Origi on the cheap from us. We're looking to get around $10 million from this sale. Hopefully West Ham makes a move soon, and then we can really put all our efforts into signing a striker. I've been talking about a new striker for weeks now, for the last few episodes, and we still haven't signed one. We've been linked to almost everyone. So at this point, it's one of those situations with Milan where we're not going to know who we're signing because we're linked to everyone. And then I think it's going to be one of those situations where the striker signing is wrapped up in a couple of days. We'll hear like one news outlet mention it, and then before you know it, the player is going to be there for a medical. Hopefully that's the case. We really do need someone to play behind Giroud as a second striker. We have Colombo, who's obviously a very talented young player, but he hasn't scored in any of the friendlies so far, and also played against the Serie C side the other day and hasn't scored against the Serie C side either. Obviously, that very first friendly, I'm not even counting it. He did score a couple goals, but in any of the more serious friendlies, he hasn't really scored. But he did impress Pioli in the way that in his build-up play and holding the ball up. Let's see. They are talking about keeping him as a third option. However, it seemed that he asked management to be loaned out once again this season. We have Giroud, and so far that's our only option. Maybe Okafor is a player that can play as a striker as well. He's very versatile. He does play in the middle, left or right. Potentially with Pioli's tactics, Okafor can play that position, and they can form a nice attacking trio with Chukwueze, Okafor, and Leao. You also have Pulisic, who can play in the middle, more of a false nine situation. So we do have some options currently. However, if we're going to play with a striker like we did with Giroud last season, then we do need a big, powerful person up front. At the same time, we do have now a lot of attacking depth, especially on the right wing. We have now 4 potential players for that position if you still count Messias and Salamakers, Pulisic, and Chukwueze. Messias is on his way out, hopefully, to Bologna. We're looking to get Singo for Messias, but that's also been an ongoing transfer for a couple of weeks now. Still nothing finalized. And also Besiktas came in and put in an offer for Salamakers, but this is only a loan with option to buy once again. Like I said before, Turkish teams always tend to lowball us. I don't think we've ever made a transfer to a Turkish league that was favorable for us. So a loan with option for Salamakers, I don't think that's a great deal, because if he doesn't perform, then we don't get the money. And if he doesn't perform and he comes back to Milan, that means his value has dropped. So I'm not really sure how that would pan out. But I guess if they need to get his salary off the books to bring in a new talent or whatever the case might be, then Salamakers can go to Besiktas. At the same time, I do believe that we can keep him as a right-back option. He did play the right back in one of the friendlies this summer, so I think he can stay as a good right-back option for Calabria, especially against weaker teams where we need to attack more. But against the stronger teams, I would obviously start Calabria over him. So let's see how it goes, and if we bring in Singo or if we keep Salamakers for a right-back option or if we just sell him altogether. I think if a good enough offer comes, we will sell him. With that being said, that closes out this transfer season episode. Just a couple of thoughts for me, I really wish that we would have signed Højlund from Atalanta, but obviously Manchester United snapped him up and it was a huge transfer way out of our budget. Obviously in the beginning of the summer it seemed like he can go for 30 to 40 million, but now with Manchester United involved and paying basically double that, then he's way out of our reach. I do think that our defense is still shaky. We played Monza and tied them 1-1, and Tomori was all over the place in regards to his positioning, never in the right spot it seemed. There was a lot of holes in our defense, so I'm not really encouraged by what our defense has shown so far during the summer. That was when we won the Scudetto. Our defense was unstoppable. We, in the last 11 or 13 games, I think it was, we kept 11 clean sheets, and we only allowed 1 goal when we did allow goals per game. And we basically closed out that season with one of the best defenses in the league. Last season, we allowed a lot more goals. Our defense was constantly shaky. Kalulu and Tomori sometimes looked all over the place. Tomori against Chelsea was atrocious, basically. And even against Inter Milan in the Champions League, our defense was not looking good. So I do think we need to potentially make that defense more rock solid. I don't know if tactically we need to make changes or we need to sign a new player. But personally, I would get rid of Simon Kjaer. And Sergio Ramos right now is free. I know he would cost a lot to bring in for his salary, but bringing in someone like Sergio Ramos can essentially lift up the young defense that we have, because obviously he's a very talented center back and one of the best ever. I think we should aim to bring a veteran in that's going to help the youngsters gel and relax a bit. It's kind of the Ibrahimovic effect that we had a few years ago. When Ibrahimovic came in, he was obviously much older, and now we have even Giroud, who's much older, but it helped our attack so much by having Ibrahimovic there that we need to have a player like Sergio Ramos or someone that's going to essentially get these young center backs that we have to perform calmly and at their highest potential, because as good as Thiaw is and Tomori and Kalulu, they've showed games where they are incredible. However, they've also had a lot of mental lapses, which sometimes you forget how good these players actually are. Especially there was one game where Kalulu basically took Thiaw out of the game and allowed a goal. Even Okafor, when he played against Kalulu, he made him look foolish. Let's see what happens with our defense, but right now I'm not really encouraged by it, and I hope by the time the season starts in a couple of weeks that we will see a better AC Milan, especially defensively. I'm already very encouraged about our offense. I have no doubts that we're going to perform better or equally to last year, but defensively, if we don't fix that problem, then I don't think we'll be competing for a Scudetto. Now, just so you know, number-wise, when we did win the Scudetto, offensively, from that season compared to last year, it was almost equal. We only scored maybe 4 or 5 less goals between those 2 years. But defensively, I think it's somewhere around 8 to 10 goals. I don't know off the top of my head. I should have wrote it down. But I think it's like 8 to 10 goals that we allowed more last season than we did the year before. So that might not seem like a lot, but that's a huge difference over the course of a season, and it's a lot of lost points. If our defense stays the same as last year, we're going to be struggling to make the top 4. We're definitely not going to be competing for a league title. So Pioli has some work to do defensively, and hopefully it gets figured out in the next, I believe it's 2 weeks by the time we start the season. So anyway, thanks again, guys, for joining us at Red and Blacks TV. I'm loving all the feedback that we've been getting on our social media, on Instagram, TikTok, and on YouTube. Please make sure to subscribe and tune in on all podcast platforms. You can listen to us on audio as well, on your drives to work, whatever the case might be, and catch up to your favorite Italian football team, AC Milan. Again, Red and Blacks TV on all platforms. You can look us up, comment, and let's have a conversation. Let's talk Milan. Thanks again, guys.